I've been running around like a blue-ass fly since I came in here. The first thing was that currently we must be at slack water because it's really quite pleasant and relaxed here at the moment. The first thing was that this visitor's pontoon here, this one, is out in the river, and even though it said in the pilot book that it's quite difficult with the cross current of the river here, I didn't fully appreciate what that meant. So pulling up onto this place here was more of a controlled crash than picking up a pontoon, because I think the river was running from like this direction up here, and caught me side on and just pushed me straight into it. So it wasn't so much as gliding up to the pontoon and placing a rope over a cleat. I was trying to hold myself off the pontoon. The river was pushing me on. And the other thing is that this pontoon, I'm not sure whether all the pontoons, but they're kind of lower than I'm used to. So I placed the fenders, just automatically put the fenders at the length that I'm used to putting the fenders, and it seems to me that well, they were too high basically, so that was a bit of a problem. So I literally did crash into the side of the pontoon. But there was a nice French guy, young lad there from one of the little racing boats, came and helped me, so that was quite good. Okay, so I've just been to the sailmakers. There's a young lady in there. She doesn't speak English. Why should she? She's in France, and she's French. So I wrote some phrases down, and with some something akin to the sand dance. It's like French through the medium of dance or gesturing. So anyway, and with the assistance of the French for Cruising book, the problem with the book is it just takes ages to find a phrase that you need. So you need to sort of pre-find them. But then if someone asks you a question that you haven't pre-organised, you're stumped completely. But anyway, I've left her my phone number. She understands it's a mainsail halyard. It needs to go through the roller at the top, and they can't do it today, but the guy will give me a phone call tomorrow. God, I've just made it back to the boat now, and it's really hot already. I mean, it's really hot. There's a faint breeze here. There is a breeze here. I'm going to put the wind scoop up on the boat today because yesterday was ridiculous. Inside the boat in the afternoon, it was just like being in an oven. It's kind of starting to dawn on me maybe how much of a problem that might be in the Caribbean. And even a bit more south. I mean, yes, the year's getting on, but I keep heading south. Which I'm not complaining about heading south, but yeah, maybe the Canaries will be a bit hotter. You know, Spain's going to be a bit hotter, Canaries will be a bit hotter, and then obviously when I get to the Cape Verdes, they're just off the Gambia and Senegal, so that's bound to be hot, isn't it? Alright, right, so I've left Benodet this morning. It's after all the really nice weather that we've had, it's been blistering hot and blue skies. Last night it clouded over. The winds moved round to the north. The winds moved round to the north, we do actually have some wind for sailing in. Currently I've got about 10 knots, which is just about enough to actually move at a speed that you can get somewhere. You're doing it's about 3.5 to 4 knots achieving in 10 knots of wind. This boat needs 10 knots of wind to move at all. So really. So I didn't do any film to begin with because it's literally, well, it's still raining a bit now, but it's been raining for the most part. So it's just started. It's about 2 o'clock now. I left at about 10 to 11. I was supposed to leave at 10, so I was a bit late. I left at about 10 to 11, and I'm just passing. These are the Îles de Glennon here, which on a nice sunny day would be pretty idyllic. Right, it's brightened up a little bit actually. Yeah, so we've got a little bit of, not exactly sun, but it's just looking a little bit brighter, and it's a lot warmer than it was this morning, which is nice. So at least we're gonna have there's that's the Île de Groix over there. It's about 15 miles for me to pass it. It's about 15 miles for me to pass it, so it's so it'd be sitting astern of me. So there's about 3.5 hours at the current speed.
Call sign 5 Bravo Romeo Yankee 4 5 Bravo Romeo Yankee 4. This is the control on 16. How do you read over?
I just had a double quick check that that's not my call sign. It's not. I'm too hotel. Because they're speaking English. I'm like, what? I can't even see anyone out here. But anyway, alright, okay. So anyway, that's where I'm at the moment. Yeah, it's going to take me about 6.5 hours to get to Point de Quiberon, and then I'll still have about 12 miles to go. So yeah, it's going to be a really long old day, but hey ho, it is what it is. Right, it's I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's about 10 to 9. Yeah, it's about 10 to 9. Yeah, 10 to 9 at night. It's currently at the moment it's blue skies. We still do have wind, a little bit of wind. Yeah, 9-10 knots. It is dropping though, which is a bit of a worry. After the last thing I did on the camera, we had 2 hours where the wind dropped down to practically nothing, 5 knots. So I've only just cleared Île de Groix. You know, probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours later than I should have really. We're about, I think it's about 24 miles from our destination. That's the beginning of the Point de Quiberon, and I'm kind of closing towards the point there. So at the other end, in about, say, your best part of 15 miles, no, yeah, about 15 miles, I'll be just a few miles from the land there. So so we are now closing back into the mainland, and then from that point it'd be about 10 miles to Île de Hoyt, and then it'll be a bit of pilotage to get around to the anchorage. Alright, good morning. I'm at the rather lovely anchorage on the Ile de Hat. And I was just about to have breakfast this morning. I woke up, I went to bed about 2:30 last night, something like that, and woke up this morning. I don't even know what time it is, I haven't looked. Anyway, I've been visited by the douane, the old customs guys. They just rocked up this morning in their dingy, and they've checked all the paperwork and everything. As I would have it, they didn't check the insurance, because I can't find the insurance. I got all the paperwork out, and I'm sat there looking at the folder, this folder here, where I've got all the paperwork in for the boat in there, and so they've asked for the ship's registry and a passport. That's pretty much all they asked for, really. And well, I gave them that, and then I thought, well, they want to see the insurance or something. So I found the radio license and the insurance. Well, no, I didn't. I couldn't find the insurance. So I don't know, where the hell's the insurance gone? That's a bit off. So what the hell have I done with the insurance? I can remember going and getting it printed off, but anyway, I can't find the insurance paperwork. Although I am insured. I've had to bug out of that little anchorage I was at, because basically what happened was the wind shifted round to the west earlier than it's supposed to, and increased. Instead of the predicted 6 to 12 knots, we ended up with over 20 knots of wind, which made the anchorage untenable. So I was on a lee shore, and yeah, the swell was quite big. It was dipping its the boat was dipping its bows into the water at anchor, so I had to fire up the engine and get out of there a bit sharpish. So I've organised everything now, and I've just sort of seen as I'm out of there, I'll just head off to the next destination, really. I'm heading for Ile de Dieu, and we'll see how it goes. It's about a 60-mile trip. But I didn't start until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it took me, because I was only able to motor at about 1.5 miles to get to the my waypoint until I could turn and then make any speed. So it's like gone 4:30 before I started getting anywhere. Oh no, it's 4:30 now, so I left at 3. So alright, yeah. So it's we are getting somewhere now, but no, that's basically it, really. I could have done with some more sleep, or it would have been nice to have got a full night's sleep and then do this tomorrow. But then when I check the weather report, although they're not being completely accurate, well, they're not even anywhere near accurate, tomorrow is forecast for not much, really, the 6 to 12 that we were expecting, but I don't know, and more sunny tomorrow, so we will see. I don't know whether it's worth leaning on this wind while we got it, and getting as far towards La Rochelle as it's possible. I'll see what I feel like later on. There's no two ways about it now that I'm out here and doing this. Then the first opportunity to anchor is going to be at Ile de Dieu, and that's not going to be till about 3 o'clock in the morning at least. Right. So it's about 9:05. Take these off. It's about 9:05 at night. Now it's going to get dark in a little bit. I've just got something cooking. Well, heating up. I'm going to eat now. I've put a reef in, and I've got the engine running just to give the batteries a bit of a charge before we go into the night. I'll just run it on for about an hour. Give the batteries a bit of a charge just to make sure that I've got, because I've now got to run the lights and the chart plotter and everything else. The fridge is running still, all this. So I'll just give them a bit of a boost now. Oh, I'm losing the page in my book. and we'll be going into the night. Now I've just passed a waypoint which I can't remember the name of, a South Cardinal, and that was kind of from there it's like 29 miles to the next Cardinal, and then there's a few miles more to clear LDU, but there is an anchorage because the wind direction has changed. It might be that not far from that waypoint I might be able to get into an anchorage there for the night. We will see. We'll see how it goes, basically. Right, morning. I'm well, I'm not on, but I'm at the LDU. Where I arrived at about 5:30 this morning. Since the last update that I did, which was just as it was getting dark last night, we had a series of dark cloud banks that went over that increased the wind speed, but it went up to about 14-15 knots. It got colder. The wind went up to 14-15 knots, and it maintained its direction from the northwest. So I had it basically from aft, slightly off the starboard side. So slightly on the beam, on the starboard side to aft, and I was able to make good use of that. And then in between the biggish cloud banks, these are the big tall cloud banks. You had some nice sunny skies, and not much. The wind dropped down to maybe 8 knots. There was one patch in the night when the wind dropped down to about 6 knots. It was quickly followed by bigger squalls. Now by this time it was completely dark, and I really spent what can only be described as the most pleasant night sailing I've had until probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, when I was about 10 miles away from here, when I was just sailing along, and there was just stars, and it was just pleasant, and we were just moving at about 4 knots, and you could walk around the boat. It wasn't crashing around ridiculously or anything. It was okay. And then I kind of looked ahead of me and off to the starboard side, and I could just see this massive blackness, and it even at night it looked grim. And then when that hit, the wind direction changed completely. It went from northwest to southwest, and it increased up to 21-22 knots. And I could not then continue in a straight line towards the direction. We ended up running adjacent to this island, right over there, about 10 miles over there. So that was like a really weird one. And then that passed, and that slowly abated, and the wind direction returned slowly back around to the north, which is where it's coming from at the moment, is the north. But we had then another squall shortly, within an hour of the first one going over. It returned to some sort of semblance of order, and then another one went over, and then another one, and so they were coming over thick and fast, and in those squalls it was 20 plus knots of wind, which in itself isn't the end of the world, but it was bringing cold driving rain with it. It was pretty horrible. Hi, right, so I left the anchorage about 4:30, 5 o'clock. It's about 7 o'clock now. I'm heading for La Rochelle. When the phone charged up, I checked the weather report, and it was down for building. The winds were going to build from like 5 o'clock well, midday really on, and it was quite uncomfortable at the anchorage. So I thought, as I'm unlikely to get any more sleep there, I'll just be sitting there in a really bumpy ride worrying whether the anchor was going to drag. I might as well do the same thing as yesterday and shoot off and sail overnight to La Rochelle. So I've had a bit of messing around just to clear the Ile de U, because I had to do a little bit of dead downwind. Oh, we're dead downwind now actually. But anyway, I've cleared the island, and it's disappearing slowly astern, and we're pretty much on course for Ile de Ré. So I need to round Ile de Ré before going into La Rochelle. It's lovely. I kind of thought there's the island in the distance, disappearing. If you can see it, I'm not sure if you can. We're going downwind. The Genoa flopped when I had the Genoa out as well, so I've just given up on it, and I've got one reef in the mainsail, and we're just using the mainsail to go downwind. We're averaging about we're about 4 knots. We're averaging about 4 knots in 15 knots of wind, downwind with one reef in the mainsail. That'll do. There's no rush. Right, yesterday, and that was a pretty good sail, all the way to within 10 miles of the island. Then I had the issue with basically the squalls coming in and buggering everything up. So at the moment, I thought that the weather forecast meant more squalls, and we were looking at sort of between 12 and 20 odd knots of wind, and it was going to be because of squalls. But at the moment, it's just really nice. We've got fluffy white clouds around us, no big dark looming horrible things anywhere on the horizon to make you a little bit worried. I've got a reef already in. I can't be bothered to knock it out because we're doing all right. If I knock the reef out, we might do another knot, half a knot probably. If I was able to have the wind on the beam a little bit and have both sails out, we'd probably be doing 6. But it doesn't matter. We are moving steadily in the direction that we wish to move, and that'll do. Going pretty much due east, so there's the sun. that went all right in the end. I see how it really. So I trundled in here, and it's like a mill pond in here. Look, it's just completely calm. There's a faint breeze. There's a faint breeze, which happened to just push me onto the pontoon. Okay, which was really quite handy, because that had a lot of potential to go horribly pear-shaped. Because it does say in the book there's only a metre of water on the pontoons, but as it happens, we've got 3.5 metres, which is tons, and the nice gentleman in front of me come and grab the rope. So what more can you want? So as this is, I've wanted to moor up here for years, so I'm going to spend a few days here, have a look at my last bit of France before heading to Spain, and maybe even get to upload some videos. You never know your luck.